What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew to talk to you today about the Round 8 recipient of Nuff of the Week. And this week, it could only go to one individual. It's been a pretty stellar round of football, to be honest. And as I record this right now, there could be some last-ditch effort from either a Brisbane or a Gold Coast player. They're halfway through the first quarter as things stand. But for me, the clear standout this week in terms of sheer stupidity that needs to be acknowledged goes to this big meathead. Of course, we are talking about Sam Draper here, who opened his big mouth this week, and he's more than entitled to speak his mind. Echoing a sentiment that, honestly, myself, there's a couple of the Hoops Crew that kind of agree with, but he has kind of lost sight of his position within the game and what that allows you to say and not say within our bubble. So Sam Draper this week, and I'm going to reference an article here. I'm bringing up some comments that were made. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can hopefully read them. He made some comments about the Western Bulldogs coach, Luke Beveridge, this week, who, again, myself, Ben, I think some of the chaps as well, completely agree is kind of on the outs this year, and I think a contender to be out of the coaching caper by the end of season. But Sam Draper spoke on a podcast in a segment where he was imitating a journalist, and said he had a big call about the Bulldogs. And that call was, if Bevo is still there, Luke Beveridge, there will be some players requesting trades. Now, this is a small comment for a clown on the internet like me to make. For even the most qualified of media personnel to make, because they don't have a stake in it. They're not on field, they're not one of his players. There's nothing to this. But for an active player in the competition, an opposition player for that matter, to come out and speak about it in our game is a big no-no. And Sam knows this, and he's had an absolute nightmare moment by making the comments that he's made. Again, I don't necessarily agree. He probably stands by him. He's possibly making those comments based on conversations with mates that might play for the Bulldogs. Who have said, if he stays, I'm out. Like, this could all be founded on airtight data or hearsay or direct feedback from players at the club. But he can't be the person to make those comments. That's for me to make. That's for, again, like proper, qualified, intelligent, respected people in this industry to make. And Sam's gotten a little bit ahead of his skis on this one and messed it up pretty badly. Now, there was some kind of follow-up from that, and so Bevo kind of had a little bit to say about the matter as well. He commented being it bizarre. The people who became aware are close to him. So there was a bit of heat between Essendon and the Bulldogs over the course of the subsequent days there. And Bevo's right. Within our game, it's incredibly unusual for something like this to occur. And it's... I really don't know what Sam Draper was thinking in making the comments that he made. So he's done it. He's put his foot in it. There's been plenty of backlash. There's been backlash even within the Essendon Football Club as well. As I go to share a different screen here, and bear with me for 1 sec as I get my act together. Share screen. Let's get this one. It's an article from the AFL website. It was Brad Scott speaking after the Essendon and West Coast game yesterday, where he spoke about how it was disrespectful from Sam Draper to make the comments, and where he says, I was really disappointed in Sam, and he's really, really clear how disappointed I was. Scott said with a tense win after the Eagles, blah, blah, blah. He thought it was an environment where he thought he was being funny and said, mate, it's the furthest thing from funny. It's disrespectful. Our club has had to fight extremely hard for a long time to earn respect back in the competition. And that's just one thing that eats away at that. I'm really disappointed in him. And that is an important lens to apply to the entire conversation here, where obviously Essendon's been through so much and they've lost a lot of respect through the whole drug scandal. And regardless of whether you think they did do it, they didn't do it, whether Hurd was a scapegoat, any of those sorts of things that kind of get thrown out there in these conversations, regardless of what is true, what is false, and what you believe, optically, the Essendon Football Club took a massive hit as a result of what happened. And you want to try and keep yourself pretty squeaky clean, let alone the fact that, of course, the club's struggled. They haven't won a final in 20 years. There's plenty of jokes that I do regularly make about that to some of my Essendon supporting friends. Hello to any of those that are watching today. And you want to keep things above board. You want to show respect for your opposition. You want to show respect for everyone within the comp, because you're not really speaking from a position of strength yourself. And Sam Draper has, as I said, gotten a bit ahead of his skis on this one and messed it up pretty badly. So that's the situation. That's where it's at. A really poor moment from him. Obviously, there was some conjecture afterwards as to, with the comments, why he missed the week. It looked even clear to me during the Anzac Day game that he was labouring a little bit with injury there and perhaps a little bit in need of a rest, I suppose. And so he got one, and presumably will come back to kind of tag team with Todd Goldstein the following week. But in the meantime, he's well and truly putting his foot in it. And he's got a little bit of work to do to, I guess, earn a bit of respect back from his peers, both internally and externally, from the public and, the broader football community. The other half of the conversation is around whether these conversations can or should happen. I think about the NBA, and I follow the NBA quite a lot, and players, I think of Draymond Green, for example, not really my favorite player, but very outspoken, has a lot to say. LeBron has a lot to say. That the big players in the comp, and Sam Draper doesn't fit the equivalent mold within the AFL, just to be clear. Doesn't really have the runs on the board like they do. Those players get to say what they want, speak their mind, speak what they believe, and there's little to no consequence for that. There might be a bit of a social backlash if it's something that people don't agree with, but they're entitled to speak their opinion, and they get to act more as individuals, and we don't have that here in our game. The question is, should that change? But Australia has this really entrenched tall poppy syndrome that continues to kind of bite players who get a little bit too big for their boots, quote unquote. I think about Paddy Dangerfield after he got injured in that Geelong Hawthorn game, and he was banged up, and then he kicked 5 goals or whatever it was, and had the press conference a couple of days later where he kind of came up all bandaged and in crutches and all sorts of things, lent into the fun and theatre of it, and people tried to take him down for it. Like, it was just so stupid. And sorry to put that little bit of Geelong flavour on it, but we are a Geelong channel, and it's kind of been stuck in my mind ever since that happened. That why are we having a crack at the guy? Like, he's injured. He got injured. He did an amazing job pushing through, and now he's trying to make a little bit of light of himself. What's wrong with that? But because he's so outspoken, because he's such a high-profile person, then he appears to be, in the eyes of some, getting too carried away. People try and take him down. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. It's not what we want. And I don't know. I think there's a broader cultural thing that we definitely need to explore within the game here in Australia, and how we treat the players. But until that conversation happens, until there is change, or isn't, whatever, until there's a potential change, players like Sam Draper need to keep their mouth shut. Have those conversations behind the scenes. Have those conversations off camera, off mic. You don't need to be making these comments about opposition coaches, about players at opposition clubs, and whether they will or won't stay, list management stuff. It's not appropriate in our game, in the current climate. So Sam Draper, the Nuff of the Week this week. Stay tuned next week for another one. We'll see who bobs their head up to say or do something incredibly stupid over the course of the next 7 days, and I'll make sure to dunk on them when the time comes. But until then, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Hoops Crew on YouTube. Check out our Patreon, where you'll get early access to a whole bunch of awesome stuff. You get a 7-day free trial before considering sticking around for longer. There is so many amazing things coming out of the Hoops Crew at the moment. Less so the stuff that I'm doing, but more so the amazing things the chaps are up to, the Ben's up to. We've got some great stuff going on at the channel. Check all of it out. Find me on social media at Paul James Games. Check out the Hoops Crew on all the social platforms as well. Thank you to Valhalla as our primary sponsor. Amazing beer. Go check that one out as well. Thank you very much for watching. Remain Geelong strong. Sam Draper, you're a Nuffy. See you later, guys.